Hello, I'm Ollie and this is CriminOlly, where I talk about crime, pulp, horror, that kind of thing. Today, given that it's the 1st of April, I want to ask the question, has BookTube fooled me? And I want to talk about a much recommended book, What Moves the Dead by T Kingfisher. So this is another collaboration video which I've done with the same lovely group of people who I did the Goodreads Award collaboration with. I'll leave a link in the description to the video to other videos that people have done, or a playlist. I'm not quite sure how we're going to handle it yet. But yeah, there will be links so you can see other people's videos. So what we're doing for this one is looking at books that have been very heavily recommended, that have had a lot of love on BookTube and other places, to see if BookTube has fooled us. So the book I've chosen is What Moves the Dead by T Kingfisher, which came out only a few months ago, towards the end of 2022. So this is a book that everyone I've seen talk about it has absolutely loved. So I wanted to give it a read myself and see if I agreed or see if people had fooled me. So I'm going to answer that question right from the start. No, nobody fooled me. This is an absolutely fantastic book. I think it might be my favourite book I've read so far this year. I just thought it was wonderful. I literally couldn't put it down. I mean, it's only a short book, to be fair. It's less than 200 pages. But I read it cover to cover pretty much in one sitting, and I absolutely loved every page. It's a really, really clever book, and also deeply, deeply creepy. It's really quite unsettling at times. So let me tell you what it's about. So it's kind of a retelling of The Fall of the House of Usher by Edgar Allan Poe, which I have read, but like years and years ago. And I think my memory of The Fall of the House of Usher comes more from the Roger Corman movie than it does from the story. But like that story, this centres around the House of Usher, so this crumbling old mansion, and Roderick and Madeline Usher, two siblings who live there. Madeline suffering from kind of various ailments, including catalepsy. And the story is narrated by a character called Alex Easton, who's a non-binary character, a soldier who's kind of returned from fighting in various wars, and is visiting their friends, Roderick and Madeline, to kind of catch up with them basically after being away fighting. It's set in, I'm trying to remember what the country that is called that it's set in. It's set in like a mythical European country, and it's unclear whether, or it was unclear to me anyway, whether the treatment of gender and pronouns and things like that, which I'll talk about in a minute, is supposed to be distinct to this particular country, or whether it is whether it's like a global thing and this is kind of an alternate universe. But it feels like it's set kind of towards the end of the 1800s, and other nationalities that we would recognise are mentioned in this book. So there's a British woman, for example, in this book who studies fungi, and fungi, as you can probably tell from the cover, play a big part in the story. So let's talk about that use of pronouns. So it's really interesting, and this is a society that has multiple different pronouns. It is mentioned how many there are. I think there's like 7 groups of pronouns, and the one that Alex uses to describe themselves are ones that are distinct to soldiers. So when you become a soldier in this society, you adopt different pronouns, and you use those pronouns throughout your time as a soldier. And then I think when you stop being a soldier, you can either decide whether to continue using those pronouns or to change to different pronouns. So the use of pronouns was really, really interesting. And what happens in the book, and I won't go into too many spoilers. I won't go into any spoilers because I don't want to spoil it for you. But there is some particular stuff around pronouns towards the end of the book that I thought was really, really clever. And it really comes down to this concept of self-identification and of people having the right to identify how they want to. So I thought, as I say, I thought the treatment of pronouns was really interesting. And Alex is a really interesting central character. But for me, the overwhelming strength of this book was just the deep level of eeriness and weirdness that permeates throughout it. It is really, really creepy at times, but it also manages to be quite charming and funny. So the friendship that strikes up between Alex and this female botanist is beautifully described, and just there's some lovely bits of dialogue and things like that, and some lovely just kind of pastoral scenes where they're out kind of walking in the countryside and things like that. but it's that there's this gradual sense of mystery and dread that just builds up throughout the book, and in kind of the final third, as you find out what's going on, it becomes deeply, deeply unsettling. There's something really uncanny about what T Kingfisher is describing here. I won't go into spoilers at all, but it is wonderfully, wonderfully creepy and macabre, and I really, really enjoyed it. And as I say, it's a book I couldn't put down because I had to know what was going on. It's one of those books where the more you understand about the mystery, the less you feel like you understand about the mystery, and the more you want to get to the conclusion. So you get that I guess resolution, that you understand what's actually been happening and why. So yeah, really, really effective, extremely gripping and exciting, and a genuine sense of peril for the characters. So I really came to care for the characters in this book, which is, I think that's rarer than we care to admit in books that we read. Many books that I read, certainly, I find I don't necessarily care that much about the bulk of the characters, but this one I really cared about all of the characters, and so I cared about what happened to them, and that made the events of the book even more chilling and effective. So yeah, BookTube did definitely not fool me with this one. I thought it was an absolutely fantastic book, and I can't recommend it highly enough. Okay, time for a random book from the shelf. So for the first time today, the book I'm going to talk about is not a book I own a physical copy of, because physical copies of this book are pretty much impossible to come by. I first read it a year ago, and I'm still shaken by quite how horrible and disturbing it was. That book is, of course, the infamous The Journey by William Willie Wilson. If you want to know more about it, I did make a video about it, as I say, about a year ago. So check that out for more information. I'll leave a link to it in the description. But yeah, one of the most disturbing books ever written, I believe, and justifiably sought after by collectors. So I hope you found that interesting. Let me know if you've read What Moves the Dead and what you thought of it. And reflecting back, even that title, even just saying the title kind of gives me a little bit of a chill because of what happens in the book. So yeah, let me know if you've read it. Let me know if you've read other books by T Kingfisher. I really, really want to read some more of her work. So yeah, let me know what you thought of it. And as always, thanks very much for watching. Hope you're safe and well out there. Hope you're reading good stuff. And I'll speak to you again very soon. Cheerio.